Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. Finally talked to my friend about a paranormal sighting we had 6 years ago. Hello, I have a pretty wild story that I still cannot explain to this day. I don't really believe in ghosts, but this experience still makes me doubt my beliefs every time I really think about it. Especially since I just find out my friend saw the exact same thing as me. So, 6 years ago, my friend and I went to a local church with an easily accessible roof, or so we thought, so we could climb it to watch a meteor shower. It was a hot summer night, around 1 to 2 a.m. We parked our car in a neighborhood near the church and walked through a small forest to get to the church property on the other side. It creeped us out a bit, as we were just 16 or 17 at the time, but we weren't paranoid or anything. Once we were on the other side of the forest, the church property began with a wild meadow full of small trees and brush. There were a lot of bushes that were mid-body height and grew together in a way that almost created paths like in a maze. After making our way through both the small forest and the meadow, we made it to the church, but realized we completely underestimated how easy it would be to get up on the roof. After trying for nearly 30 minutes, we decided to call it quits and just head back to the car we parked back in the neighborhood. We went back the same way we came from. As we made our way to the brush, I noticed a human-sized shadowy figure. As we kept walking, I quickly assumed it was simply a tree that was cut in half or something. Quickly after taking a few steps closer, I realized it was not a mere tree. It was something living. Before even saying anything to my friend, we both slowed down at the same time. My next immediate thought was that it was some type of animal standing, but then I realized that was impossible. The only animal able to stand at that height would have been a bear, which there are none of where I live. In addition to that, as we inched a little closer, I immediately realized it looked nothing like any bear or any animal. We soon both froze. The best way I can explain is that it was like a shadow person, a term which I only discovered today while doing a little research. It was tall and shadowy. There was no defined face we could see on it. It was just pure black. And no, it wasn't just because of the night, because we had already been out for an hour and our eyes had already adjusted. In addition, the moon was out and the sky was clear, so we were able to see things pretty clearly around us. By this point, we are only a few meters away from this thing. We were pretty close. Without saying a word to each other, me and my friend immediately turned back and started to quickly walk away. Within seconds, we both looked back and saw the thing pursuing. We then started into a full sprint until we reached the main road in front of the church. We were speechless. We had no clue what the duck just happened. We were so terrified, we took the long way and walked along the main road till we hit the neighborhood where our car was parked in, and then proceeded from there. We started walking back to the car and were trying to process what just happened. We barely said anything besides, "Holy shit, dude, I'm so scared." I thought to myself and tried to rationalize by thinking there was a man there, but this figure had no defined features. I know it was nighttime, but if it was a person, we would have been able to at least see their hair, or their face, or their pants or shirt. No, it was almost like they were wearing a black spandex suit, in the sense that it was just a shadow with no definitions. Once we make it back to the car on the edge of the forest, we stop talking about it and ride back to my house in silence. We never talked about it again. For years, I have been telling this story to friends when I wanted to mind duck them or when we are telling scary and crazy stories. It still comes up in my mind from time to time. Today, me and my girlfriend were randomly talking with my mom about supernatural stuff since her side of the family strongly believes in ghosts and superstition and dream reading and etc. I told her about my encounter from years ago. It made me really think hard about it, and I realized how ducking crazy it is that me and my friend both saw the thing, and that I still can't explain what happened. It made me think, damn, I should hit up my friend and ask what they made of it to this day. I texted my friend asking if she remembered the time. She replied that she remembers and still thinks about it sometimes and believes it was the only supernatural experience she's ever had. Then I realized we never ever talked about what we actually saw. So I tried to find a picture online that looked as close as to what I saw. I found a picture of a shadow person and sent it to her. She said it was exactly what she saw as well. This freaked me out because we both saw the exact same thing and neither could explain it. What creeped me out even more was the fact that it began pursuing us. So now I'm sitting here just thinking about it, trying to still rationalize it. I'm not a big believer in the supernatural. Part of me believes in it, but my logical brain is telling me it's fake. But this experience still makes me challenge myself. I only had one other supernatural experience in my life long before that time, if anyone is interested in hearing that too. I put quotations around supernatural because this one does have possible real-life explanations. When I was probably 7 or 8, I slept over at a friend's house. I shared the room with my sister at the time, so I was terrified of sleeping alone. While at this sleepover, I woke up in the middle of the night alone. I got scared and immediately went upstairs to my friend's bedroom. He wasn't there. In a panic, I went to his mom's bedroom and woke her up. He was sleeping with her in her room because I was snoring since I had a stuffy nose. After this, I went back down to the pull-out couch. Once I made it downstairs, the dog started barking while in its cage. As the dog started barking, I could also hear a shh, shh. I became terrified, but wanted to see what was going on. I crept against the wall to see into the living room. I saw what looked like a shadowy man in a cape snushing the dog with the finger over his mouth. I was ducking terrified and ran upstairs back to my friend's mom's room and told her. She came down and nothing was there, only the dog barking. She turned on the TV and I stayed up for the rest of the night, scared as hell. Now, this experience has some real explanations. Firstly, this friend's parents were in the middle of a divorce. It's very likely that his father maybe came in through the living room glass door to get something, but wanted to come in the night to avoid his family. Another explanation is that maybe there was a burglar and he bounced right before my friend's mom came downstairs. The most likely is that my child brain created this figure since it was dark as I had just woke up. I do remember being pretty wide awake though, but yeah. Those are my experiences. Still makes me think a lot to this day. I just wanted to vent out here because they are pretty wild experiences. And one of them someone saw with me and still has no logical explanation. Thank you Vibe 1960, the author. Creepy encounter at the hotel I worked at. This paranormal encounter took place at the hotel I worked at last year. I was 20 years old working at a small mom and pop hotel in Ontario, California. I had worked there for some time before I started to stay there for a few months. The owner taught me everything that I needed to know so I can run his business while he went on a business trip to Africa. Mind you, I didn't have a car, so my only option was to stay there and work around the clock if need be. I didn't have to pay for the room, and I got to wash my clothes in the laundry room. There was a grocery store in walking distance and restaurants all around me where I could get food at a discounted price, since I worked at the hotel. I thought this was a sweet deal. One night, my boyfriend came down to visit, and while he was in the bathroom, I heard banging coming from the room next to us. Then I heard scratching on my walls. I told him to stop playing, and he didn't even know what I was talking about. The banging continued all night, so I called the front desk and told them that the people next to me were loud, and I had to be up at 6 to go down there to work. She was quiet for a while, then told me that she hadn't rented out the room next to mine. Mind you, I had an end room. I quickly ran outside to see if the curtains were open or closed, and they were open. I could see right into that room, and nobody was there. This was an outside hotel. I had never been so creeped out in all my life. Then I decided to sage the room to rid it of any bad spirits, energy, and that worked for a while until it didn't. The next time something demonic happened, I was asleep. I kept hearing whispers in my sleep. I hate whispers with a passion, and they creep me out to the fullest. So I sat up in bed, and I was looking around the dark room, and in the corner of the room, I saw white glowing eyes staring at me. I felt frozen by its glare. I could see its body, and saw that it was crouched down, holding its knees. Then I saw more shadows appearing closer and closer. I reached to turn on the lamp next to the bed, and it didn't cut on. So my next thought was that I needed to run outside and get to safety. It took all the balls in the world for me to get up and run outside. I was so scared I couldn't feel my legs. All I could feel was the cold wooden floor beneath me. I got to the door and flung it open, only to see that the bedroom curtains were on the outside of my room's window. The sky was black, and the clouds were a dark, dark green with gray tints. I was mortified to realize that I was still asleep, and I hadn't actually woken up. I looked back inside the hotel room and saw myself asleep in the bed. I screamed bloody murder, and then that's when I jolted awake for real. I said a prayer and went back to sleep. The encounter that followed was worse. I went back to sleep, and yet again I could hear things in my sleep. I was scared and couldn't move any part of my body. I started to pray in my head as loud as I could, only to awake and feel my body slam on the bed as if I was levitating. I called my grandma the next day, and she said that was a demonic attack. I got my car shortly after, a few days later, and never stayed in that hotel again. I was severely depressed at the time I was staying there, and maybe those spirits were feeding off of me. I never stayed there again. Thank you, OKMoney40, the author. Need help after smudging seems to have exacerbated things. Hey Redditors! I was hoping to get some help from someone who has knowledge about this. A few weeks ago, my boyfriend went to grocery store and said he saw a black butterfly and didn't think anything of it at that moment, but on his way home, he said he thought maybe something attached himself to him. That night, he was moaning and looked stressed in his sleep, which never happens. He's usually very still and quiet when he sleeps or snoring, lol, but I was concerned, so I woke him up. When he opened his eyes, he looked terrified and didn't say anything but felt compelled to go to the kitchen. All of a sudden, the door in the other bedroom slammed shut. I asked him what had happened, and he said that he was freaked out because he was just by the kitchen counter when it slammed. He then told me he had a nightmare that occurred in our place and that some tall shadow had come in, and he was confused because he knew he locked the door. Then he went out to check to see if the doors were locked, and when he went out, there was a tall man that he didn't know but felt familiar, and the man held his arm. That's when he woke up, and I'm thinking it might have been because I held his arm to wake up. I decided to buy some dragon's blood sage online and sage our place. I felt good after smudging, but it was my first time and I didn't know I was supposed to protect our place afterwards. That night, he had a nightmare and today I actually feel more increased outside activity, so I'm pretty sure I might have done something wrong. I remember when he moved in, I would listen to subliminals that were very helpful to me, but it gave him the worst nightmares. Not sure what to do at this point, and we can't really move due to pandemic. Help would be very much appreciated. Much love and positivity to you guys. Thank you, perfectlillydiadeetz, the author. Thank you for watching, everyone. I appreciate your support. What do you guys think about these stories? Let me know down below in the comments. See you again in my next video, and until then, please be safe.